Hi, it's Rachel from Tea and Forget-Me-Nots.
Hi, welcome back to Tea and Forget-Me-Nots. I'm Rachel and I upcycle furniture and decor, and you can find all of my projects on teaandforgetmenots.com. But today I'm going to be upcycling a chest of drawers I have already made over, and thanks to a rather industrious toddler peeling off the paper from those chest of drawers in their own bedroom, we're going to go for a second makeover. So today's furniture flip is a child's chest of drawers from IKEA, and we're going to be doing something a little bit different, something that I didn't expect I would need to do, which would be to Google what the difference is between a leopard, a cheetah and a jaguar. Who knew? So let's get into it.
So this is a makeover of two halves really, because there's the original flip that I did a few years ago for my child's bedroom, and then there's the updated one after the slight cheeky monkey shenanigans happened by removing the decoupage paper. So just briefly, we'll go back to the start. I got this chest of drawers for free on FreeCycle, and if you don't know about the brilliant tip of using Google Lens, I will leave a link to an explanation post, but that is how I found out that this chest of drawers was actually from IKEA. So to make it a bit more interesting for my child's room, I painted it grey with chalk paint and applied some Star Wars wallpaper as a decoupage. Now, as a parent, I am slightly older and wiser and realised that that was going to be very tempting to peel off as my child got older. So here we are with less than perfect chest of drawers and time for a bit of a refresh. So fortunately, the piece didn't need too much of a clean to make it suitable to start from, but I did need to remove the wallpaper properly so I could start with a clean slate on those laminate drawers. The top part of the wallpaper peeled off quite easily. That's the piece with the image printed on it, and it just left that bottom layer of the wallpaper to remove. So I used some warm soapy water and a scraper tool, and it came away quite easily. And because the chalk paint beneath was slightly patchy where it had been scraped off, I just made sure to remove all of that, so I would get a nice even surface as I was going to start painting rather than reapplying paper. So I used some 180 grit sandpaper just to remove that layer of chalk paint, and it didn't take long before I got back to the laminate drawers. Now the main base of the chest of drawers still had that chalk paint on it, so for that again I did 180 grit sandpaper just to take the shine off the wax, which was the original finish. Fortunately, I didn't need to do any repairs, there was no wood filler needed. So after sanding the piece, I cleaned it with some TSP cleaner, diluted with warm water and a clean cloth, and just wiped it all over. And then removed the cleaner with some fresh water so that I had a clean surface to start from. Now, as this is an IKEA piece of furniture and they're often laminate and shiny, it was important that I would prime the front of the drawers so that the paint would stick to it nicely. So for this I used Slick Stick, which essentially puts a matte layer on top of the laminate surface so that later paints stick to it nicely. I used Slick Stick recently on my fridge and it has worked perfectly so far. And I did just the one coat of Slick Stick and that was fine. As you can see, I didn't have much Slick Stick left in the can, so I got it out with a brush and then used a roller to get a nice even flat surface. Now onto the design, and this is the fun bit. So of course I still wanted something a little bit interesting for a child's bedroom, and I had these safari stencils that I hadn't yet used. So I did a mock-up of 3 of the designs to see how they would look in the traditional colour of the animals. So I did a zebra version of white and black, and then a giraffe and leopard version with yellow and brown. And I gave my child the choice as to which one they liked the best, and they chose the leopard, so that is what we went with. And this is where I had to check the difference between a leopard, a cheetah and a jaguar as to see actually what the pattern of spots look like. And that's how I discovered that this is a leopard stencil. Now for the main colour of yellow, yellow is not a colour of paint that I have a huge amount of, so I had to do some mixing, and I had a bright canary yellow called Daffodil, which is in the Terra clay paint range, and then the colour Sandcastle, which is in the Silk range. So the difference between the Silk range and the Terra range is that the Silk has a built-in top coat and the Terra range doesn't, and also must always be sealed because it's made from clay and therefore water will always reactivate it, no matter how long ago you painted it. So fortunately it was easy to mix a colour that I liked. I did about 2/3 of sandcastle to 1/3 daffodil, and it created still a quite mellow yellow but with a bit of a punch, a little bit more vibrant than just the sandcastle by itself. And this piece of furniture is quite flat, there aren't a lot of details, but I used a brush to paint the sections with the ridges to get the paint right up to the edge, and then I used a roller for most of the rest of it to get that nice even finish. Yellow is often a colour that requires quite a few coats to get good coverage, and this combination of daffodil and sandcastle, I needed 3 coats until I was happy with the coverage that I got. I quite often use a paint syringe when I'm mixing paints together because then I know the exact quantity I have of each colour, so I can recreate it either further down the line or for later coats. But I didn't have a paint syringe this time, so I did it by eye. So what I made sure I did is that I did an entire coat of the one colour, and then for subsequent coats I mixed up a second batch. If the colour was slightly different, that was fine because I wasn't touching up specific areas, I was doing the entire piece, so it would all be the same. After I had all my 3 coats on, I was really happy with the yellow as it was. It seemed like a nice, calming yellow, but also a sunny and happy one too, so perfect combination for a bedroom. So I had this stencil, which is approximately about 20 centimetres in size, and I used frog tape to place it down. Frog tape is a good option because it is low adhesion, which means that it's easy to remove and not very likely to take that fresh paint off. And actually this was the first time I've used a roller to apply paint to a stencil rather than a sponge. A sponge is a great way for getting a crisp edge, but because I was going to have to reposition the stencil several times, I thought I would at least try the roller as an option and see if it worked or if there was any bleeding out of the lines. And to my delight, it worked perfectly. I didn't put too much paint on the roller, and this gave slight variation to the amount of paint that applied to each of the leopard spots, which actually I really liked. I just had to be careful with not going over the edge of the stencil with the roller and pay attention to exactly where it was placed. I didn't wait for the paint to dry and repositioned the stencil straight away. Unfortunately, because there was so little paint, it didn't smudge or it didn't take any of that paint off, even though the stencil overlapped slightly. And when repositioning stencils, it's quite easy not to get a perfect match, either a slight gap or a bit of an overlap as to where you've placed the second stencil. So I went back in with an artist brush just to touch up those sections and remove those lines that separated each part of the stencil that I'd painted. And I couldn't do much with the handles because they were a very specific circular design, so I also painted them in the same brown as the leopard spots. And again, unsurprisingly, I don't have many brown options of paint in my stash, so I did a combination of several to get a nice chocolatey brown colour. And I used a mix of coffee bean, mauve and desert tan, which is sort of a dark brown, greyish colour and darkish yellow. So Sandcastle, which was the majority of the paint combination, does have a built-in sealer. However, the clay-based paint doesn't have that built-in sealer. So because they are mixed together, it's essential that you do still put a top coat on, because by mixing the paints, you've essentially diluted the built-in sealer that is there. So for the final step, I did 2 coats of clear coat in satin. So between the actual top coat and the partial top coat within the Sandcastle silk paint, I hope this will be durable enough to withstand even the most industrious of toddlers' adventures with their furniture. So the most important part of painting this IKEA laminate dresser was priming it so that the paint would stick nicely to the shiny surface, and then sealing the paint because I was partially using a clay-based paint. Now, of course, a safari-themed dresser is not going to be to everyone's taste, but when my child saw it, their response was wow, so I don't think I can get a better review than that. Between waiting for the different coats of paint to dry, These drawers only took a couple of days to complete, so it's a really simple flip and it's such a cute little statement piece for a child's bedroom now. And the nice thing about doing another transformation with paint is that it's so easy to paint over further down the line when my child decides that maybe they want the zebra version instead. So this one was a lot of fun to do and a really cute little update for a simple chest of drawers. And who knows, maybe even Star Wars will come back again in a few years' time.
Thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please consider liking or subscribing. It makes a huge difference to smaller channels like mine. And if you're interested in any of the products, I will leave them linked below so you can find out more information about them. Alright, thanks very much for watching. Until next time, bye!